What do you typically say when you meet a girl you find really attractive? Do you even have the courage to approach her, or do you just numb yourself and then regret of not having approached her? There is more than one mechanism at play when you are scared of approaching somebody you find attractive. The first one is appealing to a much deeper fear than her rejecting you. It is the fear of abandonment. Any guy actually who has felt abandoned in some way in his childhood will naturally have a harder time to go and approach somebody that he finds attractive. And even without that, just the thought of somebody not wanting you is calling very deeply to some deep fears of the human being of being ostracized from a group. On top of that, you have the pressure to impress. In our society, we are supposed to master everything in the blink of an eye in just 1 second, because from an early age we are trained to think that there is the winners and the losers, and so there's a lot of pressure into a guy's head whenever he is about to approach somebody he finds attractive. If you take care of that early enough, many doors will open up for you, not only with women but also in your career, in your family, in many places, because once you get past the fear of rejection, you get past the fear of conflict also to some extent. So you don't fear conflict as much, and you can say much more easily all the things you want to say to any person in your entourage. If it gets worse though, somebody who might not want to work on that skill, who might never want to improve, might get into more serious problems later, because that person might end up isolating, like we have seen many people during the pandemic, and ending up isolating and becoming bitter about women, only criticizing them, only labeling them really bad names, and then identifying to some extent to the incel subculture, explaining that in any case all the women want to emasculate me. And this is really paralyzing so many guys into toxic frames that they get trapped into. As a result, they get reduced, much lower self-esteem down the road, because they keep reinforcing in their head affirmations about them not being attractive enough, or not deserving anyone, or being just a victim, and that no woman will ever like them. And ultimately, they may miss a lot of life opportunities because they won't even try anything new. Because no one likes me anyway, so why should I even try? That is a pretty difficult loop, self-inflicted pain loop in which many guys these days fall into. And the very first step, I would say, best case going to therapy, but even without that, the first good step I would say would be to start listing, maybe every day, things that are positive about yourself, things that you have done right in your life, or things you can be proud of, or qualities that either you know you have, or qualities somebody else said you had. Even something you think is just irrelevant, but if somebody ever complimented you on anything, write it down, and you start reinforcing on the reverse some positive traits about yourself. Then when you start approaching somebody with a positive attitude and a positive expectation about who you are and who she is going to meet, many things will become more easier once you approach her. Then for the specific phrases or lines you might say when you find somebody attractive in the streets or in a grocery shop, whatever, the first advice I would have, if I take my experience as an example, is to start approaching more in the places you naturally like to go to. And if there is literally no place that you like to go to where there is women, then how can you develop that as a habit? What kind of activity, of interest, maybe a new hobby, where you are going to be exposed to other girls around? Doesn't need to be top models, anything, at least some place where you are going to be exposed to women in one way or another, at the very least. Then once you can find at least one place like this in your entourage that you can start going to, maybe once a week at minimum, and you start being exposed to other women, then the best strategy I think I have used was Still, something that you will say is just dumb because it doesn't work anymore, because it was in the book The Game and now it doesn't work. Well, opinion openers still work great for me even today, and it is just about how you use them, not about the technique itself. You ask her opinion once you find somebody attractive, you start wanting her opinion about anything. But there is a way to do it. For example, when I was in a bookstore and I was regularly going there because I was studying psychology and I was really interested in that, that's something I forced myself to do to try to get girls somewhere, but I legitimately liked that. And whenever I was in the book section about psychology, I noticed if there was a girl around. Naturally, I was opening her, I was trying to get a conversation at least. And one of the easiest approaches I ever had was to take 2 books, for example, 2 books from the bookstore, and asking her, hey, which one would you recommend to me? That's all. And maybe she doesn't know any of them. It is just about having her opinion between 2 choices. So the opinion opener is basically, in that context, you indeed ask for her opinion, but you give her 2 choices ahead of time. Because interrupting somebody in the course of their life and asking their opinion about something really broad might just make them say, oh, I don't have time for this, sorry, goodbye. But if you only ask them to select from 2 options you are giving to them right now, it is a very easy way to break the ice and get the conversation starting. So I was asking her, for example, which one would you recommend to me between those 2 books? I have too many books at home and I need to select only one, but I can't make my mind because both of them look interesting. And it was like more a playful thing, nothing super serious where I have to get her number, just something really playful. Then she would say, well, I don't know, maybe what do you look for? And from there I had a hook. Then I could get a conversation starting. As soon as she was starting to become more talkative, to engage more in the conversation, the next really big step for me was to get her to say anything about what she likes. So, and you come here often, what do you like to read among those books? Anything she says, just one thing personal about her, getting her to engage with what she legitimately likes and not trying to embark her on a conversation she really doesn't care about. If the conversation is solely in the beginning about herself, that's a pretty easy way to keep the conversation going. Make her talk about herself, not in very deep ways yet, but at least something personal. What does she like? If you are in a sport event, for how long has she been practicing? Anything personal about her. From there, you start to create a light connection. Not a deep connection, but a light connection, because you start sharing things more personal about her life and about your life eventually. Then the last step, which appeals more to lifestyle design, I know maybe not applicable depending on where you are in life, but I would really keep on my calendar events or concerts or anything happening during the week, during this current week or the coming week, and telling her, oh, by the way, I'm going to this or that event on Friday. If you're interested, maybe I will meet you there. And you just propose something informal, non-confrontational, nothing too pressure. It's not like a date or anything. Best case scenario, you are going there with other people already. That way it looks even less frightening. But just getting her to think about going somewhere where you are going to be too. In the best case, you find a common ground, something she likes doing and something you like doing, but that is pretty rare if you just meet people randomly. At least finding something where you are going to go. It might be anything in your city, in the place you live in, anything you are going to go to, and drop that in the conversation. Then, if you have built enough connection during the conversation, she might be interested. If you try to pull that way too fast, obviously she's going to say, well, I'm busy, I have a boyfriend, whatever. If you take the time to really engage her in the conversation first and display, humor, some sense of humor, some lightness in the conversation, then she might be much more inclined to say, why not? why not try? And keep that in mind. A funny joke I heard from Eric Van Sydow is me in a conversation. If you talk about yourself, me equals to her ears, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't care about who you are. She doesn't know you. No need to start trying to brag about how good you are in the beginning. Talk about herself, talk about what she likes, what she enjoys in life, what she wants to do in a very light, polite way, nothing like too super deep, like who do you want to become 10 years from now? Don't try to become like a personal development guru with somebody you just met, because I've done that in the past. It's really a bad idea. And you just ask her to say anything a bit more personal about herself. Then smoothly you lead into a more casual conversation, as if you had already been friends with her for the past 5 years. For example, how would you interact with her if you and her had already been friends for a pretty good length of time? And then if you want to learn how to communicate better in other areas of life too, not only dating and seduction, but also maybe in sales, maybe in more difficult conflicts where you have to hold the ground and you have to put some boundaries with some people trying to manipulate you, or just some places where you want to help people get rid of their limiting beliefs and you just don't know how to get them past their limitations and get into action. You have a small document down below called The 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth, which is about several situations in which you can use language to either create a connection with somebody or distance yourself from toxic people, or just get at the root of whenever somebody is talking about a problem, how do you lead their mind into finding a solution. This tool, Sleight of Mouth, can do many things like that. It depends on which way you want to use that. In any case, you will find that down below in the description, and I hope it will be of the best use for you. You can ask questions if you have some down below in the comments too, and I will see you again in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.